Welcome to the Life You Love podcast.
We're your hosts, Grace Lemire
and Erin Convertini.
This podcast is for the dreamers and the doers.
For the women who want to create a life they genuinely love waking up to.
We believe that life's short, so let's build one we love.
Welcome back to the Life You Love podcast. This is going to be a super fun episode. We haven't done a Q&A in a really long time, and we usually make these about a specific topic. But for today's episode, we were honestly just ready to yap about whatever you guys wanted to hear about. So we both posted a question sticker on our Instagram stories, and you guys submitted some really fun questions about life, health, business, relationships, and more. So let's get right into it.
We're both in a silly, goofy mood today, guys. So I feel like this is gonna be a good one. We were just like cackling before we started recording. There's such an array of questions as well, like all random, different career, finances, lifestyle stuff, just like all different stuff. You guys came in clutch.
Yeah,
I'm ready to
I
yap.
love that though, because we were like, our brains, I feel like with the holidays are so fried that I would have been really sad if all of the questions were about like budgeting and debt and investing. Like my brain just actually can't. So I'm happy that there's like some fun ones in here and we can just yap about life.
Yeah, I know. I think I have at this point in the year, I have like only a few remaining brain cells and like I need them for the things that I like need to do, you know? Like I'm
You have to salvage them.
Yeah, I do. Like we have to ration what we have and there's not much left. So when we start in 2025, we'll, come back at you with some real educational stuff. But today's more like yappy. Okay. Where do we want to start? Let's see.
Let's just start from the top.
Okay. Right from the top.
Okay. Yeah, so I got this question on my Instagram story, and I actually got this a couple different times. This person said, what are your current diet/workout routines? And I did get a couple different questions. Some people were asking like specifically about like the nutrition end, and some people were talking specifically, I can't even talk today, specifically about the exercise side of it. But yeah, we can kind of talk through our current, I guess, like nutrition habits, workout habits. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay. Here's the scoop. If you're new here,
Grace has a gluten allergy.
I do. I have a gluten allergy and a dairy allergy. Double whammy. Natural selection got me, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, down bad. And this year I also had SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And that is an actual freaking mess. If you've ever had it, it takes so long to heal. And I feel like I'm still kind of in the healing process of that. So I feel like I eat mostly whole foods, obviously all gluten and dairy free. But mostly I don't eat grains right now either because of the SIBO situation. Grains like make it worse. Like I try to limit grains because obviously like I have to like live my life. And if I go to dinner with my friends, I'm like not ordering a side of broccoli. Give me the French fries. Like I'm sorry, I'm just not doing it. But I feel like I eat mostly whole foods, but mostly just like meat and veggies because of my health situation and whatnot, but it's getting better. We have not been like bloated. I usually like wake up bloated, but I have not woken up bloated in a couple of weeks now, which is like a giant feat, guys, because it's been going on since April. But yeah, that's kind of the main, I guess, like the main like diet stuff. I have like a balanced diet. I'm not like an all or nothing person. I'm just like eat your fruit, eat your veg, eat stuff that makes you feel good, live your life. It's fine, but also like eat gluten and dairy free because you're allergic. So workout routine, guys, my gym has been playing me. Okay. I specifically got this gym membership because they had workout classes and they were like, yeah, we have like reformer Pilates. And I was like, oh my God, slay, like whatever. The membership's $80 a month. Okay. If you want to do a reformer Pilates class, you have to pay an additional $40 per class. $40.
40?
Yes. 40. Okay. If you want to do, I think there's a class called like TRX or something. If you want to do a TRX class, you have to pay an additional $25. So if you did 4 of those a month, literally one TRX class a week, you're spending $180 a month for your gym situation, literally just to have the membership and go to like one class a week. Granted, obviously you can go to the gym otherwise, but I got this membership literally because they said they had classes. Pissed me off. All right. And it's a year-long contract, so I couldn't even cancel. So I started going to Pilates, mat Pilates, every Tuesday at my gym. And then I used to go to this class called Soul Fusion every Friday, which is kind of like it's like yoga inspired flows, but it's also like there's some weights and like there's some cardio and like kind of Pilates. It's really good, really challenging class. Well, then all of a sudden out of the blue, the teacher who taught the Pilates class on Tuesdays just boom, she gone. I'm like, okay. So they bring someone else in to fill in for her for one class. I'm like, perfect. Is my favorite Pilates teacher at this gym. She was only there for a week. They just stopped offering the class for months. They just brought it back like 3 weeks ago. And I was like, boom, I can get back on my BS and get into Pilates. No shade to this other teacher, but the classes are not challenging. We spent the first like 5 to 8 minutes breathing. So I'm not even joking. She was like in and out. And I'm like, what in God's green earth is this? The gym like demographic is more like it's like some older people. I'm like in these classes, I'm like the only one under like 35. So I feel like yeah, it's just not challenging, but I feel like it's because of the demographics. So all that to say, my gym is really like playing me, but I do pay for the gym membership. So I try to go to a couple classes a week, like a challenging mat Pilates class. And then I've been trying this class called Body Pump, which like Google it. Oh my God, you do like over 500 squats over the span of the hour. It humbled me severely, but it was really good workout. And then I walk on my walking pad a lot at home, and I also do YouTube like Pilates workouts. I love Pilates body Raven. She's like Raven from Love is Blind if you watch Love is Blind, but her workouts are no freaking joke. It's like a 45-minute mat workout, but it's going to take you to the trenches and back. It's challenging. So that's the current diet and workout routine. I cannot wait till I move though, and I can use like ClassPass and go to cute
Yeah, I was
workout
ready to say,
studios.
for context, Grace like does not live that close to a city right now, so her
No.
option, she can't just go to a different gym. She has what she has. You're also always bringing up Love is Blind on the podcast. This is the second time.
Really?
We were filming a life lessons episode last week, and she was like, my life lesson, this guy from Love is Blind taught me.
Yeah, maybe these people are just really insightful or something. I don't know. I'm also like someone who just like, I feel like when I listen to a podcast or like watch a TV show or something, I'll like pick one thing out about it and it just like ingrains in my brain. I don't know, something about it. Look at that. We love Love is Blind.
I don't watch Love is Blind, but as for my current diet habits, exercise habits, okay, so I do not have food allergies like Grace has. So I am like not restricted in that area. I can generally
Must be
eat whatever.
nice.
Yeah, honestly, it is very nice. But I feel like over the past couple of years, since I've been like big into fitness and like lifting weights and all of that, I've really just focused on keeping my diet pretty high in protein and then also pretty low in added sugar. And generally, if I'm focusing on those two things, I feel pretty good. I used to, right out of college, I went through a phase where I was pretty religiously tracking my macros because I wanted to learn, like, I wanted the education around, like, okay, what is a protein? What is a carbohydrate? What is a fat? What types of foods are like made up of those different macros? So I did that for about a year, and I felt like that was a really good time in my life, again, just for that education, but I knew it wasn't something that I wanted to do long term. So at this point now, I like have that education in the back of my mind when I am like building meals, but I don't track my food. Like I literally used to use a food scale, which sounds crazy, but I also feel like, again, just like for the education piece of like, okay, what actually is a serving size of like rice, or what is a serving size of like chicken? I feel like now I have such a better gauge of that because I did that for about a year. So yeah, again, like I really just focus on higher protein meals, low in added sugar. When I say high protein, I try to do about 1 gram per pound of body weight every single day. So I'm around like 130 pounds. So around like 130 grams of protein is what I try to stick to. But again, I'm not tracking it. So it's just an estimate, obviously. And then I think those grams they definitely come from a mix of like, I eat 3 meals a day and I also eat snacks in between my meals. So I'm realistically eating like 5 or 6 times throughout the day. And I try to definitely get protein in each time. And then as for my current workout split, I lift weights probably like 4-ish times a week. I do 1 to 2 fitness classes a week, usually one, maybe two, but usually one. So usually like 4 lifting sessions, 1 fitness class. And that's just a mix of like, honestly, whatever I'm feeling that week, whether it's hot yoga, Pilates, a HIIT style class. And then outside of that, I just try to focus on getting my steps in. So having Bella obviously helps. If you guys are watching the video version of this podcast,
And I'm like, if you see this lump of fur
she's
like at the
on
bottom
my
of the
lap.
screen,
She's like popping up and down. But yeah, she helps me get my steps in, and then I walk on the treadmill like probably around 45 minutes a day on average. And honestly, that's like my favorite 45 minutes of the day. We have another question on here on our list of like what podcast we listen to, and I listen to a podcast every single day, and I usually do that when I am walking on the treadmill at the gym. So that's like my me time, I would say.
Love that. Okay, next question. How to become more of a minimalist? This is funny because okay, I saw this one on the list. This is one that you got asked on your page, but it's
Hmm.
funny because like I I don't know if I consider myself a minimalist, but one thing about me is I hate things. I hate things just being around. I don't get the knickknacks out of here. I don't want if it doesn't have a purpose, gone. I don't like it. I can't stand it. And I also hate having like excess things. Like back when I had that really crazy allergic reaction to my nail products and I got contact dermatitis and my skin was a hot mess. I had like 3 different brands send me lotion and I was so desperate because I was like I need to just figure out what's going to work. And now I have like an excessive amount of lotion. I'm obviously very grateful for it, but it is irking me. Like my friends are coming over next weekend and I literally have like a box of everything that like is left over and I'm like please take it and if not I'm donating it to a women's shelter because I can't with the excess things. I just if it's not in use, I want to throw it away. I just have a desire to just get rid of it. So I feel like I don't struggle with being not a minimalist, but I'm definitely not a minimalist in the sense that like I don't have a capsule wardrobe. I don't want a capsule wardrobe. I don't like constantly I'm not like someone who's like, "Oh, don't buy anything ever." Like, I don't know, super intense frugality or underconsumption are like not my thing, but I really do try to use what I have before I buy new simply because it just really irks me to have extra things. I just feel like the clutter stresses me out and I feel like when I have less things, I can think more clearly and then I just like know what I have and I use the things I have. I don't know, I wish I had better advice. Just like learn to hate things. It's basically.
Yeah, I honestly do agree with this though. Like, if you look around my apartment, there aren't a ton of decorations. I'm not a big like things person either. I don't like random things like out on my like I'm not like a coffee table book person. I don't even have a coffee table, but like if it did, I wouldn't have like random things on my coffee table or like my kitchen island. It has a candle on it. Oh, and it also has a candlestick on it, like one singular one. That's my big decoration. But other than that, like nothing can be on my kitchen island because I just like need that to be clutter free. So yeah, I also feel like I try to be minimalist around my apartment. Where I'm not minimalist is with clothes. And I feel like I honestly have just like acquired so many clothes over the past, like really since college, because I have never been good about like knowing which pieces to buy intentionally. And working with the stylist definitely helped because she like helped me identify which pieces I wear all the time and which pieces I never wear and how to pick out like what the gaps are in my wardrobe and all of that. We've talked about that. We actually brought her onto the podcast. We have an entire episode if you want to like learn those types of tips. But I did say for a couple of things as for like tips for being more minimalist. The first one is this is more so in terms of clothes, but it could also work for like makeup products or just different things like that. If there are things that you're thinking about getting rid of, put them into a bin and like put them away out of sight, maybe into like a closet that you don't go into very frequently in your home. And if a certain amount of time goes past, like a month or 2 months, and you haven't thought about those items, then just get rid of it. I feel like this is really good for clothes, like some clothes that you're thinking about getting rid of, but you're like, oh, what if I need to wear that one day? Put it into a bin. And if that day never comes, literally just get rid of it. The other thing for clothes is I've seen this on social media, that hack of at the beginning of the year putting like a different colored hanger or something in your
Or you can
closet.
turn it around, turn your
Oh,
hanger
yeah.
around too.
So every time you wear a piece of clothing in your closet, you put it to the right of that. And then at the end of the year, anything to the left, you get rid of. I probably wouldn't like that just because I like to organize my closet by like, here are all of my coats and here are all of my like tops. So I don't know how I would like that. But if you're trying to declutter, maybe that could help. And then the other thing is for your apartment slash your home, finding things that will spruce up your space without having a bunch of things lying around. A couple of examples are one big wall art piece. So like getting one big decoration that hangs on your wall so it's out of the way, but that piece kind of speaks for itself. Like if you're watching the video, I have a gigantic painting in my office and it's the only decoration in my office, but it kind of speaks for itself. A DIY kitchen black backsplash. So if your kitchen is feeling a little bit boring, but you don't want a lot of like cluttered items everywhere, on Amazon, you could buy those like DIY backsplashes, or you could do under cabinet lighting as well. So I feel like there's some ways to kind of like decorate without having just like random things.
Yeah, I just can't with the things. Also, this sounds so bad, but people would be like, "Why don't you like decorate more?" I'm like, the more that I decorate too, the more I have to dust around. I'm like, I'm thinking about I have this like TV stand over here, and I have my friends got me some books, and I like put the books on the TV stand in the little like open slot that it has in between the two like cabinets on the end. And I'm literally looking at that, and I'm like, ugh, I'm gonna have to like take them off to dust around it. Like it just makes your life harder. So like yeah, keeping your like counters clean and keeping your coffee table like clean and like or just having minimal stuff that just like speaks for itself. I feel like if I'm gonna have decor too, I like it to be as functional as possible. Like I have some stuff on the counter in my kitchen, but it's like a candle and like I have a cute like tissue box and my like knife set is like aesthetic, so it's like cute and out, but like it's not clutter, which I like.
Totally. The next question we got was on our favorite self-care and beauty routines. This person said, for example, are you a nail girl, a facial girl, a brow girl?
Okay. So if you've been here for a minute, you would know that I'm a nail girl. I getting my nails done was like the one self-care thing I did religiously for years. I love having my nails done. And if you're watching the video version of this, you're like, girl, I see them grubby little stubs. You can see them. They don't have no nail polish on right now. And the reason why is because out of completely nowhere a few months ago, I developed an allergic reaction to I think acrylate, which is like an ingredient in nail products that people can form allergies to. And apparently, once you form the allergy to it, you will likely be allergic forever. And I'm devastated because I used to get dip nails and like my nails were so long and I loved it. I felt so like feminine and cute. So I'm on the hunt now for an acrylate free nail product that looks good. So if you know one, let a girl know. But I will say, like I said, having my nails done used to make me feel so like feminine and I loved that. And now not having my nails, I personally don't like not having my nails done. I just like don't like the look of it. And so I've had to figure out like how to still feel like feminine in like other ways because that was like my thing. And I will say recently as in like literally like 4 days ago, I was like I look so ugly, and this is so bad guys, but I was like I look so ugly and masculine and I was like I hate this. I was like my face looks so bad and I was like oh I can't with myself, this is I mean I hate it. So I was like maybe we just need to like factory reset the face or something. So I decided to go and just get my eyebrows threaded because I was trying to do them myself at home and like they just weren't really doing what I needed to do. She snatched them right up, like my brows look amazing, and I came home and I was like I look so cute and amazing and like you can't tell me any different, and I felt so cute and feminine the last few days since getting them done. So I think I'm going to be a brow girl now. I will say I also do go to a med spa and I get Botox and filler. I get my lips done and I get Botox in my jaw, and I also got one syringe of cheek filler and one syringe of chin filler, but I try to like keep the results really natural, and if I ever start looking busted, you guys have got to call me out and be like knock it off. But yeah, that's probably my like beauty routine. I mean, other than like my skincare and all of that jazz, those are like the things that I do.
Yeah, and then I am not a nail girl. I used to get my nails done going into like probably the beginning of 2024 was when I stopped. Back in 2023, I did them like kind of off and on, and I would always get them done whenever this sounds really dumb, whenever I had like a brand deal or something. Like I remember this one, I was working with Capital One on a UGC video, and I had to hold up the credit card and my nail looked so bad that I literally like went to the nail salon that
No,
day and
that's
I was like,
real.
I can't, I was like, these people are never going to want to work with me again. Like this, my nails look so gross and so bad. But at the beginning of 2024, I got my nails off because the problem is you can't just go once. You have to like keep getting fills and stuff once you get the
Yeah.
gel. So at the beginning of 2024, I got my nails off and I haven't had them on since. And honestly, since I stopped doing my nails are so long and healthy right now, just like naturally. I've also been taking a hair, skin, and nails gummy. I've been using the like brand Lemme, Lemme. I feel like people have seen them all over social media, but I honestly think they work. My nails are so long and so strong right now, and I haven't done anything to them. I just file them whenever they get like a little bit too long and they never break. So yeah, definitely not a nail girl. I would say that my one big self-care thing, like the thing, or not the two things that make me feel the best are one is the sauna. I am so passionate about the sauna. It's not even funny. I go into the sauna every single day and I splurged on a gym membership that has a sauna. So after my workout every day, I go into the sauna. I'm a big Huberman Lab podcast listener, and we did get a question about which podcast we listen to. So we'll talk about that. But I listen to one episode of the Huberman Lab podcast where this doctor was on it, and she said one thing about there being like benefits to being in an infrared sauna or something, and I was like, sold. Okay, I'm gonna do that every single day. Don't have to tell me twice. So the sauna is my big one, and then the second one is I love taking like an everything shower. Like that probably sounds stupid, but I
No.
love on like a Thursday night taking an everything shower, washing my hair, shaving everything, using like a hair mask and a body scrub and things. So I would say those are my two like self-care stuff. I get massages every once in a while. That's the other thing, but
I
that's
love a
really
good
like
massage.
I do once I'm there, but I hate like scheduling it and making the time for it and going. Like I know that sounds dumb, but I hate like it is a whole big thing, but I do
Yeah.
enjoy it once I'm there. But I really only get massages because I have like chronic shoulder problems. I don't know if it's my posture or like something I do in the gym or something, but my left shoulder gives me a ton of pain, so I get massages for that.
I love massages, but it's funny because I say like I love them because I love how I feel afterwards. But whenever I go, I get a deep tissue massage because my
Yes, me
posture is
too.
literally like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So then I need to go to the massage place for them to fix it because I will be in so much pain from slouching
Yes.
so much. And then it hurts. If you've ever gotten a deep tissue massage, oh my word, it hurts so bad. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know why
It's
I
not
say I like
self-care in the
them.
moment. It is like
No.
literal so much pain.
Yeah, it's only good afterwards. But okay, we got some questions on like thoughts on discussing finances early in a relationship and some other like partner type of questions. So, thoughts on discussing finances early on in your relationship, Erin?
Ooh, okay. I really love this question. I feel like my boyfriend and I talk about this all the time and how it's like super important to talk about finances with your partner. Like, we've only been dating for 6-ish months and not even like officially dating for 6 months. We've only like literally known each other for 6 months at this point, and we talk about finances. However, I think there's a way to talk about finances without necessarily sharing your salary if you aren't into that, if that makes sense. Because I know some people are like, oh, like, I don't need to tell them my salary. Like, I don't need to tell them how much money I make. And like, that's fine. I personally don't care. Like, I'm an open book when it comes to that with my partner. But I think like if you don't want to share your salary, there's still a way to kind of like have the money conversations and talk about money, like how you view money, how you think kids should be raised when it comes to money. Like, for example, my boyfriend and I talk all the time about how like I want to have enough money to where I could pay for college for my kids, but I wouldn't let my kids grow up just thinking that school is going to be paid for and that they're not going to have to worry about it, and that like, you know what I mean? So we have those types of conversations. But yes, I think money is super important to talk about early on.
I agree. Think in the past when it comes to dating, I mean, I haven't been in a serious relationship since I've been like out of college. So when I was in college and in a serious relationship, our conversations about money were just like, hey, you just got your paycheck, cool, you can pay for the date this time, or like I don't like I haven't gotten paid in 2 weeks, like just things like that, because we were both making like $10 an hour, which is not a lot. But I feel like it is really important to talk about early on, and I feel like there's a lot of reasons why it's important. I feel like if you're gonna combine, cuz I'm in the mindset of like I'm dating to find someone who I can spend the rest of my life with. So, if I'm going to spend forever with them, I feel like I need to know as much as possible about you before I decide to make that decision to spend my life with you. And finances are just simply something that it's a huge part. I think the important part of it is like not entering that conversation with judgment, but knowing for yourself, like, what are my boundaries and what are my, like, what do I need from that person? Like, and what am I comfortable with? So, for example, if you're like, okay, if my partner feels insecure about the fact that I make more than them, like, is that something that I'm willing to like work through with them? Or am I looking for someone who's just like secure from the jump? Or am I okay with being in a relationship with someone who has 6 figures of student loan debt? Or is that something that I'm not willing to get involved with? Like, you have to decide. I don't think there's any like right or wrong boundary to have. Like, it's up to you and what you want, because it's ultimately your life and how you're gonna work with them. I think big things are like would you combine finances? How would you want to do that? Are you going to have a prenup? I do think talking about how much you make is important. Because I think, again, if you're going to, and I've seen this happen to people, and I think that's where this comes from, but people never talk about how much they make, and they get to a point where they start talking about engagement, a wedding, and wanting to buy a house, and they realize that one person makes significantly more, and the other person then feels like, or the person who makes more ends up feeling like, well, okay, now we're not really lining up here because my expectations of a wedding are 40 or 50,000 and yours is 10,000, or my expectation of an engagement ring is more, or we're talking about, going into buying a house and one person has way more for the down payment and the other person really has nothing, or it just kind of creates this, like, I don't know, mismatch because it's never been spoken about. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you're afraid to have that conversation, I don't want to say there's like a reason why, but I would try to figure out what the reason is. Like, are you afraid the partner's not going to accept you because of a certain aspect? Are you afraid of how they're going to react? Because I think that the reasons why you might be afraid of it is telling. And it could just be that, like, you've always been taught that talking about money is a taboo thing, but like, okay, then work on like rewiring that in your brain because it doesn't need to be a taboo thing, especially with someone that you might commit your entire life to.
100%. I also think like thinking about having the money conversation in a relationship, it's not as straightforward as like, okay, we're on a date and we're going to sit down and dedicate the next 30 minutes to talking about our finances and spilling all of our beans financially and being like, here's an Excel spreadsheet of all of my debt and all of my assets. It's not that. It's just more of the fact that money naturally comes up in conversation when you talk about everything with your partner and when you are a complete open book with your partner. Like my boyfriend and I, we talk about money all the time, just kind of like as it comes up through other conversations. And yeah, it is the big things like, okay, what is your idea of like a wedding one day? What is your idea of like where you want to live when you're raising your kids? If you're on two different pages largely about those big like life decisions, that's a money conversation in itself because money does impact inevitably how you end up living. So yeah, I think it's definitely important to have early on. I also want to add that like since money does kind of like come up so organically in other conversations, choosing to not tell your partner certain things about your financial life can be seen as lying. So if you're in a situation where you're like, well, I don't think I owe it to him this early on to talk about it. If you get 2 years into the relationship and all of a sudden you tell your partner that you are in 6 figures worth of debt or you are like whatever it is, they're probably going to take that as though you lied to them, even if you don't see it that way. So that's definitely something to consider as well.
I do think strategically withholding information is very similar to that. And that's why I'm saying go back to like the idea of like, why do I not want to tell them? Like, again, do I like think that my partner is going to judge me for it? Do I think, but also I do think, for example, like if if it changes what you end up wanting, or if when you share the information you realize that what the two of you want out of life is just simply different, I feel like you have to accept that. And I feel like a lot of people are afraid to have the money conversation because they're afraid that that's going to reveal incompatibility issues with their partner. But it is like, in my opinion, it's like part of life. And some people just like don't care like at all. I'm someone who very much cares. I'm like, okay, what are your plans financially? What do you want like out of life? Because again, finances ties into that so much. So yeah, I feel like just, I don't know, have the conversations, be
Yeah.
open. It's someone
Have
that
all
you
the
might be
hard
with forever.
conversations up front because anything that you delay, it's going to come up and it's probably going to be 10 times worse and you don't want to
Hmm.
waste either of your time. So I think that's super important. The next question that we got, kind of switching gears here a little bit, this person asked if you're comfortable sharing, would love to know the stats of the podcast. And we got a couple other like podcast slash business related questions. So we can kind of talk about all of those here. As for like stats for our podcast, I feel like this is like kind of fun to open up about because I know when we started the podcast, we had no idea what to expect because it's the only social media platform where the views and things aren't public. Obviously, if you go to like Grace and I's Instagram account or our TikTok channel, you can see right there how many views, how many likes we get, how many followers we have. But with a podcast, you don't see literally any of that. So we had no idea what to expect. For the revenue question, we don't make any money from the podcast, like literally any at all. Like we do not make even
We've
one
made a
dollar from
little
it.
this year. We've made like maybe a couple thousand from like one brand deal and the guide. But like,
Yes. And that was early on in the year because we're not
yes,
selling the
early
guide
on in
anymore.
the
We
year.
haven't done a
Yeah.
brand deal like literally, I think that was in like February or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't
Very
make
long time ago.
any money from the podcast, and our views, I would say on average, our views could be anywhere from like 3,000 to 6,000 listens an episode, just depending on like what the episode is. So I think that's kind of a good baseline to see like, okay, we're not at the point yet to where we can be monetized for like brand partners and ads running on our podcast and things like that.
Yeah, I think we were told in the beginning, I don't remember who said it, but they were like, once you get to consistent, like 5,000 listens per episode, then that's when you can monetize
I think it was
more.
10. I actually think it was
Really?
10.
10,000? Oh,
Yeah.
jeepers. Okay. I didn't realize it was
Start
that many.
listening, guys.
I was like, we're so close, but like maybe we're not. But no, I feel like it's one of those things that like we started this for fun, and that's something I think we talked about in one of the other episodes a little bit, was that we just wanted to like do something different, and we're like best friends off like social media. Like we're friends. We talk about like non-work things and whatever, and it was just supposed to be something that was fun, like just to show up once a week and get to like yap with one of your friends and like put it out there, while also having more like in-depth conversations than we could ever do in like a short form video on our social media. We both have very different perspectives about things, and getting to bring that together was fun. We treated it as a business sort of from the jump, but in a way, I think when we started doing that too much, like treating it too much of a business, because I think we did talk about this in an episode, but we were like, we should have a newsletter, and we should like capture everyone's emails from the jump, and we should sell a product, and we should do this, 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 this. And we ended up just like struggling to manage all of it, because we do have separate businesses on top of this, that we were like, this is supposed to be fun, and trying to like force it into being like, trying to like do the most was taking the fun out of it. So that's why we like took down the guide and like just focus on like, what do we want to talk about this week, and trusting that it's going to organically grow the way that we want it to, without trying to force like growth in a certain way. And I don't know, I think that it's made it a lot more fun for us.
Yeah, definitely. I will also add too that Grace and I have done a lot more work improving our skills on being podcasters than we have on growth. Like, yes, we created social media accounts and we share the podcast on our own social media accounts and things like that to try to get people to listen to this podcast. But we've been putting way more emphasis on learning how to become better podcasters. Because if you go back to our first, actually, please don't, like, please don't. But if you go back to our initial episodes, they were so bad. Like, I'm cringing just thinking about how bad they were. But 50 some episodes later, like, we honestly have gotten significantly better at it. And 50 episodes from now, we're going to be even better at it. So I think we've just been kind of taking the approach that like this year was really about learning how to have a podcast and how to be good at it, learning about what you guys want to hear about, refining our skills, public speaking, bringing on better guests and things like that. And then I think in 2025 will be the year that we're very comfortable with our skills and really focused on that growth aspect.
Yeah. I think like it's so easy to put pressure on every single thing you do to like monetize as soon as possible and like grow it into this big thing. And you hear about all these like overnight successes and things like that. But like, again, like we just want it, this was supposed to be fun. Like if we're like
Yeah.
forcing so much of it that it just becomes stressful and we're putting pressure on it, then like we're just going to burn out, you
Totally.
know?
And I also will say too, with any long form content, I think YouTube is kind of similar, but especially with podcasts, long form content is such a long term play. Like one of my favorite podcasts, she mentioned a couple episodes ago that this was her 6th year doing the podcast. And I just discovered her this year. And I
Wow.
think this year was when it like really popped off. And like that totally makes sense that like you could be doing something for literally 6 years before
Mhm.
it inevitably becomes a big thing. And when I think about where I see myself in 5 years, myself in 10 years as it relates to the podcast, but then also like my other social media channels and everything, I think the podcast is the thing that I can see the longevity being the longest. Like when I'm 35 with kids, I don't see myself still posting on TikTok, but I see myself still having a podcast and bringing on really cool people and sharing a bunch of educational topics with you guys and things. So I think like this is definitely a long-term play, and we're way less worried about monetizing in the short term and just building a really sustainable brand in the long term.
Yeah, and just building community, like just like letting you all like I don't know, just interact with us and grow with us and just, I don't know. We did get a question about some of the logistics too on the podcast. So, like, what tools we use to run the podcast being in separate locations and how to create a podcast or get connected to people who have podcasts. We, on the tools side, so like, I'm based in Massachusetts, Erin is based in Nashville, and we use a program called Riverside. It's like a pretty, like, if you just look up like podcast recording, I'm sure like it will come up, but basically just allows us to record these remotely. We initially were like, we're going to try to film as many episodes in person like as possible, but the logistics of it is just a lot, like bringing all of the amount of equipment, guys. Okay, let me just tell you, the tech side of a podcast is the hardest part. If you go back and watch our initial episodes, you'll see that we both had like these cheap mics and they're literally a mile away from our mouth, which we didn't even think about because these microphones, they're dynamic mics, so they pick up the audio that's coming like right in front of it, so they're meant to like not pick up sound that's like far from the mic, and our mics were literally like on our desks a foot away from our mouth, so the audio sounds so bad. But it's just like a learning curve. So yeah, we use Rode mics now, which definitely helps, but even these are not considered like the best of the best out there. But yeah, trying to film in person because we have to bring all the equipment and set everything up, and then like one of us is flying to the other place. We definitely want to do more of it, but logistically it is a lot, and all of the flight costs and like things like that too just definitely adds up. And I feel like we are able to have good quality recordings being virtual simply because we're both yappers and we're friends, so it's easy to have these conversations. But yeah, and then we have someone asked about like, do we outsource any of the work in our business? And if so, like, what do we outsource? And for the podcast, Erin has a virtual assistant that helps with her business that edits these afterwards. And then I usually have my assistant watch the videos through and write. She gives me like a draft of the show notes, or sometimes I'll just take it and I'll just watch the podcast, write the show notes, and then we schedule it right through Spotify. So we have help for certain aspects of it, but I feel like we do handle most of it ourselves.
Yeah, the in-person recordings, it's definitely a lofty goal. It's just really hard to travel and then also have the energy to show up like this. And we also, when we do get in person, we try to batch them, and that is
Mm-hmm.
great. But then also by the, like, Grace was here in Nashville in August when we rebranded. We filmed 5 episodes and we filmed our intro, and we like did the outlines for all 5 of those episodes all in like a 4-day span. And we had a photo shoot for the rebrand. That was the longest 5 days of my life.
Yeah.
I was dead after for like days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely doable, but I think, I don't know, doing it virtually is just so much easier. And it's so comfortable for us to just like
Yeah.
be in our own spaces and sit here with our microphone and things like that. And I honestly, you guys can let us know in Spotify, but like, how many people even watch the video of the podcast? Because like when I listen to podcasts, I do not watch the video ever. Even for
Yeah.
the most highly produced podcasts, I'm doing audio only.
Yeah, I feel like at this point in where the business is at and what our goals are, it doesn't make the most sense. Like, I don't think that filming in person and maybe having like better video quality in person, like that's kind of the benefit of it. And like it's kind of like the in-person chemistry too. Sometimes you just can like riff off each other better when you're in person, but I don't think that's going to be the thing that like moves the needle and pushes the podcast like into the total next level. I think we're good with where we're at. But someone did ask about, how do you create a podcast or how do you become surrounded with people who do podcasts? And I thought this would be interesting to answer because we talk a lot about surrounding yourself with people that are doing what you want to do or in the same area. And when it comes to starting a podcast, this might seem like really harsh, but I'm going to say it. I think a podcast is not necessarily the best thing to start as like your first thing. Like, if you're trying to start something, I feel like unless you're comfortable with like putting out episodes every single week and like no one really listening, under the idea that you'd be building your social presence at the same time or building your audience at the same time you're putting episodes out, I would build your audience somewhere first, whether that's a newsletter, your social media, like whatever that is, and then launch a podcast afterwards. Because I mean, we have what, like, I don't even know, like under
Close to 1 million.
yeah, I was gonna say close to a
like,
million people, like between
yeah.
all of our platforms. And like, I'm trying to like do quick math. I'm like, oh my God. But like, even then, again, like we said, we average like maybe 3,000 to 6,000 listens per episode, and 6,000's on the ones that are like really popular episodes. Most episodes are at like 3,000 to 5,000 or 4,000, I would say. So you have to think about like, not all of your audience is going to translate over, and starting a podcast, like there has to be a way to market it and to get people there. And even with the platforms we have, again, it's still challenging. So I wouldn't start it, like, personally, that's my advice. I wouldn't start one as your first thing. I would build your audience first, then bring them over. But I also think if you're interested in starting a podcast, just like talking to people who have them is really important. Getting an idea for like what it actually entails and like, what goes into it, because it is a lot of work. I also think that trying to go to conferences is a great idea, or joining like Discords. I know one of my freelance clients, Carrot, has a Discord called Creator Studio that's free and has like, it's for content creators, but there's like podcasters and YouTubers and all different people in there. But yeah, going to different conferences or joining masterminds or just like things like that where you'll connect with people who have similar goals, I feel like is a really good way to learn more about podcasting and kind of figure out if it's something you want to do or not.
Definitely. I have nothing to add on that topic. The next question we got is, what are your dream brands to work with?
Okay, I saw this one on the list and I admittedly I looked at it and I was like, "Oh god, I don't know." And then I just like looked away and like didn't think about it leading up to this. I don't know. Here's the thing. There's definitely brands that I would love to work with, but I don't know. I mean, like Apple would be like really cool. Like I use a lot of Apple products, would love that. Like I don't know. I'm like, gosh, what do I? You go first. You go first. Let me sit
Okay.
here on my thoughts.
Yeah, because I brainstormed a little bit because I'm sort of in the same boat. I don't really have like dream brands that I mean, there's a couple that I came to the conclusion of, but I feel like when I'm thinking about social media in general, I try not to put like too much pressure on myself when it comes to the brand partnerships aspect, because it's the one area of my business where I just like know that I don't have complete control over. Like I can make the best content ever, but at the end of the day, for the most part, brands are still coming inbound to you, and like, you know what I mean? I just don't, it would be a waste of my time, in my opinion, to sit here stressing about which brands I'm working with and which brands I'm not working with. I feel like I have a lot more control over my digital products, my affiliate revenue, and everything like that. But I feel like there have been a couple of brands that have been on my list, like really since day one starting TikTok account back in like 2022. And granted, back then I was doing way more personal finance stuff and way less lifestyle stuff. So those two kind of like financy brands are Built and Capital One. And I actually have worked with Built twice in 2024 and potentially again early 2025, which I'm really excited about. But Built is my credit card that I can earn rent points on. And then obviously Capital One, I love them for credit cards as well. And then the two more like lifestyle brands that have been on my list for forever, Macy's is one, which is like kind of an interesting one. I feel like most people don't think about Macy's, but I am like such a department store girl. I just like love Macy's so much. And I think half the reason why I love Macy's is because I worked in a Macy's all through college, all 4 years. So I love Macy's. They have a special place in my heart. And I feel like department stores are where you can get the best deals on like clothes and everything. There's always so many coupons, and like Rakuten always has really good cash back offers with Macy's. They're on my dream brands list. And then the other one is Gymshark. If I could pick like one fitness brand to work with, I just like love them. I've been wearing them for forever, and they're also like relatively affordable.
Yeah. Okay. This like it's got my brain juices flowing. Okay, one, Vitality. That is like a dream brand. I feel like they don't partner with influencers as much. I feel like they
They
more
give
so
discount codes.
yeah, they give like discount codes, but Vitality is a workout wear brand. And if you follow me on Instagram, I feel like I'm constantly wearing their sets. I love them. I've never disliked anything I've bought from them. I don't own like any other workout gear that's like not Vitality. It's truly my favorite. That would be amazing. I would love to work with FlexiSpot. I have a FlexiSpot desk and I love it. And my mom and brother have desks from FlexiSpot, I believe, and we all love them. But I also don't know if they even work with creators. I'm like looking around my space. I'm like, who else? I would love to work with Shark Ninja or like Shark Beauty or anything like that. I
I
actually
almost
last
said
week
them.
got to, oh my gosh. Okay. So I got to go to this event. When I got the email, guys, I have management now, which is like really so fun and amazing. And I love them so much. I'm working together for a few months. And basically, when a brand like comes in, they'll like, my management will like negotiate with them. And then when there's like a final offer, she'll send me an email that will say like the subject line says like offer and then the handle of which like account it's going to go up on, my Instagram or TikTok, and then the brand. And I get this email from her the other week and it's like offer and it says my like social media X Shark Ninja. And I was like, excuse me. I was like, I literally was like, oh my gosh, because I have so many Shark products and it's like my go-to brand. Like if I'm going to buy something like high quality, like splurge on a vacuum or whatever, like something like that, I'm going for Shark. And I opened the email. I got invited to this like it was an in-person workshop like with the Shark Ninja team, kind of like talking about their like marketing strategy and like how they partner with creators. Oh my gosh, it was like there was like me and two other Boston creators. It was, first of all, it was so fun. I was so excited. I was just like, I was shook. It was one of those opportunities where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I get to do this. Like, this is my job and I get paid to do this. That's amazing. But I would love to work with them on something. I have so many Shark products that would be amazing. I would literally do it for $10. And I don't know, maybe like some like furniture stores like IKEA would be so cool. But again, I don't know if they like partner with creators. Branch Furniture, I have a chair from them that I absolutely love. Apple would be great. I don't know. I also don't really put a ton of pressure on the brand deal situation. There's ones that like are really cool when they come in. I'm like, oh my God, that's so fun. I would love to work with Ally Bank, but I think Ally really only work if you've been following me for a long time. I've talked about them for years and I love them, but they don't provide any sort of like affiliate anything, or they really don't work on like influencer campaigns with smaller creators. It's really only like massive creators that have like millions of followers. So I feel like that might be a far-fetched one, but maybe someday we'll manifest it. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't put a ton of pressure on it, but
Yeah.
things that are cool. I would also love to work with like, I don't know, something that's more so not really about like a part, like I would love to be part of like when like a dog rescue like brings together creators to do like some sort of like event and like promoting that, or like one of those campaigns where it's like a giveaway, like giving back. Like we did one with SoFi before where they gave like $1,000 to a bunch of different people, and that was really cool because I'm like one of my followers literally got $1,000 deposited into a SoFi account for her to just like use. And I was like, that's so cool. Like that's $1,000 is a chunk of cash. That's like life changing for some people. So I like doing those types of things too, but that really doesn't like the brand that does it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I like those types of like just different campaigns and things that
Yeah.
you can do with your followers are definitely fun. Okay, next question. We're almost running out of time here, but next question is, what is your biggest goal for 2025? This person said like financial goal, personal goal, business goal.
This is one that I got asked on my own Instagram and added to this list. And it's another one that I looked at and was like, oh, no answer. Guys, here's the thing. Okay, this is like, I guess maybe this is helpful to some people. We did an episode earlier this year, I think it was at the very, maybe towards the beginning. I don't remember what episode number it was, but it was with one of my best friends, Taryn Johnson. She is, she does a lot of like, kind of like life coaching, manifestation coaching, things like that. And one of the things that she taught me about myself is there's two different types of like manifestors, which is in your human design. I think that's what the episode was titled, like human design or something like that. And basically, it's just like how you are as a person. And so there's two different types of manifestors, specific and non-specific. And I am a non-specific manifestor. And I have found that when it comes to goals, I'm the same way. And basically what that means is that goals where I set a specific like metric, or like I need to hit this by this date, or I want to have 27 of this, or when I'm thinking about my dream home being like, okay, I want it to have this color floors and this color walls and this, all of that, that is not productive for me at all. And it actually stresses me out a lot more. And so I think it was like a year or two ago, I decided to just like stop setting a lot of goals. Like I'll have certain things I want to manifest, but I trust that it's going to be that or something better. And I don't fixate on that specific goal. So whenever I'm asked like what my goals are, I'm like, oh God, I'm like, I don't. And someone asked me this on Instagram earlier this year. They're like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And my response was happier than ever, hotter than ever, wifed up with a baby on the way, and hopefully like richer than ever. And people kept swiping up thinking it was the funniest thing. I'm like, no guys, I'm not playing. Like that wasn't a joke. Like that was literally, that's where I want to be. And so I think when I'm thinking about goals for 2025, I just get so like about it, because I think people want to hear like, oh, I want to make X dollars, or I want this thing or that. I really don't. I truly, this year has been a lot of learning, a lot of growth, a lot of health situation stuff that's been really challenging. And I think next year I literally just want to like be as joyful as possible and just have as many like happy days, as like corny as that sounds. I want to obviously like continue to grow my income, but I trust that the way it's going to grow is the way that God and the universe intend for it to grow, and I don't need to put pressure on that aspect. I would love to be in a relationship because I want to like move on with my life and like get to that point where I'm getting married and having kids and all of that. But again, I trust the timing of all of that. So I'm not like fixated on any, I don't know. I just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas
I just
Taryn
want to go
told
with the
me in that
flow.
episode that I am a specific
Yes.
manifester, and that totally makes sense for me because I am like such a goal setting person. And I feel like I do, especially around this time of year, spend a lot of time reflecting on like, okay, 12 months from now, what do I want my life to look like? And like, what goals do I need to achieve in order to get there? So I don't want to spend like too much. I'm not going to like spill the beans on every single one of my goals for 2025 because we are planning on filming a 2025, like kind of New Year's episode, and we'll talk about our goals in there. Well, I guess I will because Grace has no goals for 2025.
Stop. You're
Just
like, Grace
kidding.
has absolutely no goals and ambitions.
No
She's
goals,
just here
not
for
an
the ride.
ambitious person at all.
Stop. Put me on
Okay, but
blast.
the two that I put here are grow my YouTube channel to 100K subscribers and grow the podcast to 20K listens per episode. And I didn't review that number with Grace, so maybe she
I
thinks
know,
that
I'm like,
that's
news to me.
too low, or maybe she thinks that's too low. But I do feel like next year is just really going to be about like, yeah, growing those two platforms. I feel like I am done setting like numeric follower goals for my TikTok and my Instagram because when I think about like, okay, so for example, my Instagram, I have 115,000 followers on Instagram right now. If I grew to 200,000 followers, what would that do for my life? Literally nothing. If I grew to 1 million followers, what would that do for my life? That probably means that I'm a celebrity and I'm like going out doing like a bunch of public speaking, like things that I don't want to do. Like, I actually don't think that I want to get to like that level of success and fame. And like, I'm not trying to be an Alex Earl, and like getting
No.
very real with yourself on like what the purpose of your goals are is really important. And I feel like, again, transitioning into the later half of my 20s, I want to get married, I want to have kids. I think YouTube and the podcast are the two things that I'm really going to want to focus on in that era of my life. So I think that's what 2025 is about.
Yeah. I also don't want to be an Alex Earl. Love her. Queen. Like,
Yeah,
do
no,
your
that's
thing, girl.
amazing for her, but like she's a celebrity. I don't want to be a celebrity.
My friends and I were just talking about this at dinner last night. I was like, so help me God, if I can't just like go to Target and like go for a stroll without like being just like followed around in public, or like, you know what I mean? Like, can Alex Earl go to Target? Or do people just
No.
like constantly, we were talking about how Justin Bieber probably hasn't stepped foot in a grocery store in forever, or like stepped foot in a Target. Dude, that's not a life I want to live. Like, I want to
Absolutely not.
peacefully go to the grocery store and like get my almond milk and like do, you know what I mean? My little
Yeah.
gluten-free chicken tenders. I don't want anybody. Granted, I've had people come up to me in public like twice and be like, oh, hey, like I follow you on social media. I'm like, that's so cool. Yay. But then it's like a very respectful like interaction. And again, I'm not
And
a
they still
celebrity.
see you as like a person.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
not
it's like a
just
mutual interaction.
right. Exactly. Like, I'm like, oh, hey, friend. Like, we've DM'd before. Cool. Whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want to be like the super famous, like, I don't want that.
Absolutely
So
not.
I don't care about growing. Okay. Do you want to wrap up with the question of what types of podcasts we listen to? Because I feel like we talked about this a few times throughout this episode. Here's a funny thing, guys. Okay. I'm not a huge podcast person.
I knew you were going to say that.
Here's the thing. I don't know. I feel like when I'm putting like music on, it's because I'm like, I want to get like, I was gonna say like turn up, but like I don't drink. So not turn up like that, but like I want to like get down. Like I was making my eggs this morning and listening to Falling for You by Colby Calais. Is that how you say her name? I'm like blanking. Yeah, her. I'm in there shaking it up in the kitchen. That's like the vibe I'm going for. I don't really listen to like podcasts in that way. If I'm gonna listen to something in the background, I'll usually put on a church service, which I know sounds like random to some people, but I'll put on a church service because it brings me peace. Or I'll listen to an audiobook, which I do listen to audiobooks on Spotify, but I want to be more of a podcast person because here's how it'll usually go. Erin will listen to a podcast episode. She'll tell me, so she'll be like, oh my God, I was listening to this podcast episode on while we're recording these episodes. She'll be like, I listened to this podcast episode and they said this thing. And after we get off, I'll be like, send me the link to that podcast episode. And then she will, and then I'll listen to it. But then I'll like never listen to another episode of that podcast literally ever again. If I am going to listen to a podcast though, I really like that. I'm like flinging my phone around. If you're like watching on the video version, put it down. If I am going to listen to a podcast, I'll usually listen to the Manifestation Babe podcast or the Mel Robbins podcast. I love both of them. I think they're so good. But yeah, I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm more of a audiobook person or just a regular music person. But I want to be
See,
a podcast person. Maybe maybe
yes.
that's my goal in 2025. Become a podcast person.
And my goal in 2025 is to read more slash listen to audiobooks more so we can hold each other
Look at
accountable for
us.
that. But I am a big podcast person. I love podcasts so much. That's why I wanted to start one. But I feel like my favorite podcasts all get lumped into three buckets: nutrition, business, and mindset. And I kind of rotate between those. My top 5 that I listed here are: I love the Huberman Labs podcast. I mentioned him earlier on in this episode, but it's basically a nutrition podcast. He brings on a lot of really good guests. The School of Greatness podcast, I'm obsessed with that one as well. He also has a daily show, so he'll like take little 10-minute clips of each of his long episodes and put them into kind of like daily motivational episodes. The Mel Robbins one, that's a really good mindset one. The Make Shift Happen podcast is a good mix of kind of like manifestation, but then also like very tactical business related things. And it's also a female host, so I feel like it's good, like women in business kind of thing. And then the last one is the Mindset, Magic, and Manifestation podcast. I've been listening. She's the one that I said it was her 6th year growing the podcast, and I just discovered her this year. But I am so obsessed with this podcast. It's not even funny. I feel like she's just a really good like hype woman almost. I don't know. I just always leave her episodes feeling really good, and it's just a good like kind of mindset thing. But yeah, those are my favorites. What do you think, Bells?
Bella's back. If you're watching the video version, she just like hopped up on the couch. So cute. I love that you wanted to start a podcast because you love podcasts, and I wanted to start one because I love to yap. And I was like, people aren't going to listen to me yap for an hour on my TikTok, so we've got to put it out there elsewhere. But look at us. It's like over a year later and we're still doing this thing, and we have not missed a Monday. We've always posted an episode every single week.
Yes, that's crazy. And I am so proud of us for that because it is very, very rare. I mean, like obviously the big podcasts that I just listed that are like so professionally like produced and make millions of dollars a year, like obviously they post every single week. But like for us, just little old Grace and Aaron posting every single week, not missing an episode. They say that 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20, I think, or like 99% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20. Yeah. So we're in the top 1% of podcasts just for literally showing up every week. Look for whoever wants to listen.
I know. Look at that. No, truly, thank you all for like listening to the podcast, because I mean, I don't know if we would keep doing this if it was literally just getting like one listener every week. Like I think
it's like my dad walking on the treadmill listening to our podcast every week.
Literally, my mom, I was telling Erin about this the other day. We started posting some clips on LinkedIn, and my mom will I'll like the clips, then it will show up on my mom's feed. She'll like the clips, and now her coworkers have been like, "Was that your daughter on a podcast?" I'm like, "Oh God!" So now like some of them have listened to it. Hey, if any of my mom's coworkers are listening to this, like, hey, how you doing? But yeah, it's nice having people who genuinely, when you like put content out on the internet and people really resonate with it and they like message you and you guys like comment at Spotify and tell us like this episode like really made a difference, or like, oh, I heard you say this one thing and it really stuck with me. I've gotten a few DMs the past like week or so, people literally being like, when you said this thing, and it was something I literally said months ago, and I'm like, holy crap, like knowing that things that we share genuinely change other people's lives and like help you guys in a way that like this content is just like free for everybody, like that is so fun and just like it's so fulfilling. And the fact that we have been able to do the podcast and so many of you guys have like bought into the idea of it, and you come back and listen to these, and you're all sharing your Spotify raps on social media, and like us being some of your number one podcasts, oh my gosh, or even just in your top
craziest thing.
That was like the coolest thing. I was like, whoa, like there's a picture of me and my podcast cover literally on someone's Spotify Wrapped. Like I was like, yeah, what? Like it was the
and just like the
thing.
thought of someone like how I walk on the treadmill listening to podcasts, thinking of someone that does not know us personally, like walking on the treadmill or taking their dog for a walk, listening to us like literally yap about whatever.
Yeah,
like that is insane for an hour. Our episodes are an hour long.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy. So all that to say, we like very much appreciate all the support, and especially all throughout 2024 and with the rebrand and everything, like we really do genuinely appreciate it, and we're super excited for 2025. So if there are certain things that you want to hear from us in 2025 or certain episode ideas, let us know, because as much as this podcast is like us showing up every week and yapping, we do genuinely want it to be super valuable for you, and like we're creating these episodes for you based on things that people have said they want. So we want to know what you want to hear in 2025.
Yes, definitely. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the podcast. You can leave any questions, feedback, or episode ideas in Spotify, or you can DM us on Instagram at The Life You Love Pod. Thanks for tuning into the podcast, and until next week.